At just 17 years old, Lamine Yamal stepped onto the pitch with a burning desire to reach his first Champions League final. That night at the Giuseppe Meazza, he became the focal point, carrying the hopes of Barcelona in a tense battle against Inter Milan. The image of him collapsing to the turf after 120 grueling minutes, eyes gazing up at the floodlit stands, likely captured the weight of the moment better than any stat sheet ever could. He did not score or provide an assist, yet Yamal received the highest match rating from numerous respected analytic platforms. This was not mere sentiment or favoritism, but a reflection of cold, hard numbers. 14 successful dribbles, 23 duels won, and 7 fouls suffered. All the highest in the match. What made these stats even more remarkable is that they came against one of the most battle-hardened defenses in Europe, a backline that has silenced some of the game's biggest stars. But Yamal is different. He does not flinch in the face of pressure. He is not intimidated by the roar of over 70,000 Italian fans. From his position on the right wing, he repeatedly drove past seasoned players like Federico Di Marco, left Henrique Mkhitaryan gasping to keep up, and cut inside like a young Lionel Messi, driving straight at the heart of Inter's defense. There were moments when the entire stadium held its breath, like when Yamal curled a wicked shot toward the far corner, forcing Jan Sommer into a full-stretch save that denied what could have been a goal for the ages. It was the kind of strike that deserved a place in highlight reels for decades, but instead, it ended in a frustrated head-in-hands reaction, a split second that almost rewrote history. Even without a goal or assist, Yamal remained one of the most influential players on the pitch, and it is worth remembering that Barcelona crashed out of the Champions League in the most heartbreaking fashion. Yet Yamal's performance remains a bright spot, a lasting memory for those who watched every relentless sprint, every fearless challenge, every determined dribble across 120 exhausting minutes. Numbers do not lie. 14 successful dribbles, 7 fouls drawn, 23 duels won, all the highest of the match, and all belonging to Yamal. Up against a seasoned Inter defense, this was no small feat. He repeatedly tormented Di Marco, turned Mkhitaryan into an unwilling spectator, and left defenders trailing in his wake. One clip shared by OneFootball on social media captured a moment that said it all. Mkhitaryan watching helplessly as Yamal glided past him, a silent acknowledgement that the 17-year-old was playing at a different level. But perhaps the most memorable image of the night was not a fancy dribble or a clever pass, but Yamal kneeling on the pitch, head in his hands, realizing that his Champions League dream had slipped away. It was a heartbreaking moment, but also a powerful statement that Yamal is not just a rising star, but a true warrior, ready to shoulder the burden of leadership even at such a young age. That night at the Giuseppe Meazza, Yamal delivered a performance that rattled Inter Milan's defense. One unforgettable moment came when he unleashed a curling shot to the far post, forcing Sommer into a full-stretch save that left the stadium holding its breath. His reaction? A head-in-hands gesture of pure frustration, quickly became one of the defining images of the match. OneFootball later shared the clip with the caption, "Yamal just pulled off a world-class shot," and Sommer responded with an equally world-class save. The stats speak for themselves. Yamal touched the ball 6 times inside the Inter penalty area, made 2 key passes, and completed 85% of his passes, despite always being shadowed by at least 2 defenders. He did not just survive the pressure, he thrived under it, constantly pressing the Inter backline. While teammates like Ferran Torres missed their chance, Rafinha only had flashes of brilliance, and Lewandowski faded into the background after coming on. Yamal maintained his high level throughout the match. Inter Milan never truly shut Yamal down. They knew it was impossible. Instead, Simone Inzaghi's plan was to limit his space and choke off his influence. The Italians set up a 3-layer defensive structure to contain Barcelona's brightest young star. The first layer, led by Di Marco, pushed Yamal toward the sideline, forcing him to play further from goal. If he broke through, Mkhitaryan and Barella immediately closed in, denying him time to think. And when he cut inside, Alessandro Bastoni was always ready to step up, snuffing out any danger. But no matter how well prepared Yamal, they could not completely silence Yamal. He kept breaking past Di Marco, continued dribbling through double teams, and repeatedly made defenders look like spectators. However, Inter understood that completely shutting down Yamal was unrealistic. They gambled that the rest of Barcelona would not be sharp enough to capitalize on the chaos he created. And in the end, they were right. Inter Milan did not win because they contained Yamal. They won because they neutralized the rest of Barcelona. Despite controlling nearly 70% of possession, the Catalans were undone by set pieces, a weapon Inter have mastered. After the match, Inzaghi admitted, "We knew we had to limit Yamal's space." It was a short statement, but one that perfectly summed up their strategy. It can be said that Inter did not win by stopping Yamal, but by forcing Barcelona to rely too heavily on a 17-year-old and exploiting the mistakes of the rest. The image of Yamal collapsing to the ground after 120 minutes of relentless effort was not just the image of an exhausted player, but a symbol of a system that had been exposed for its over-reliance on a teenage prodigy. From the opening minutes, every Barcelona attack seemed to flow through the right wing, where Lamine Yamal repeatedly stirred up trouble. But the isolation of their young star quickly became apparent. Ferran Torres had at least 2 clear chances from Yamal's creative passes, but failed to capitalize. Lewandowski, brought on as a substitute, barely made an impact. Rafinha flickered briefly, but was soon smothered by Inter's disciplined backline. Behind Yamal, Eric Garcia and Jules Koundé struggled to hold their shape, leaving massive gaps every time Yamal was forced to track back. When Inter transitioned from defense to attack, the space left behind on Barcelona's right side became a glaring weakness. And no matter how hard Yamal worked, he could not cover the cracks alone. After the match, coach Hans Flick admitted, "Lamine gave everything at just 17, he had to carry too much." It was a compliment, but also a stark admission of the team's overdependence on a teenager not yet old enough to legally drink. Barcelona started the match in a 4-2-1 formation, but in practice, every forward move funneled through the right side where Yamal operated. This made sense, as he was their brightest attacking spark, but it also made their approach one-dimensional. When Inter overloaded the right side, there was no one in the middle to share the creative burden, and the defense behind them continued to crumble under pressure. No one stepped up to share Yamal's load. Lewandowski, expected to change the game after coming on, was nearly invisible in extra time. Torres wasted 2 golden chances set up by Yamal, and Barcelona's midfield lacked the creativity and physicality to break through Inter's defensive wall. Barcelona dominated possession with over 70% of the ball, but that statistic meant little when Inter expertly exploited the spaces behind their high line. Every time Yamal pushed forward, the space left behind became a clear target for Inter's counterattacks. Yamal managed to break through Inter's defensive layers, creating chances, but he could not finish them himself. He was forced to be both the creator and the finisher, an unrealistic burden for a 17-year-old. After the match, Hans Flick conceded, "Lamine gave everything. He had to carry too much." It was a compliment but also an admission of a flawed approach. A system that relies too heavily on a young player is one that is bound to crack under pressure. Yamal played like a star, but football does not reward the artist who plays beautifully, it rewards the team that knows how to win. Yamal understood this. They did not try to shut down Yamal completely, but instead focused on exploiting the space left behind him and capitalizing on the mistakes of the rest of the Barcelona lineup. The result was clear. When the final whistle blew, Yamal lay on the pitch, legs heavy with exhaustion, while Inter advanced to the next round. This was not just the defeat of a single player, but the downfall of an entire system that leaned too heavily on the shoulders of a teenage genius.